Pledge of allegiance first, and the flags are listed. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Vice, this is a new flag we have.
Yeah, it's brand new.
It's a standard flag that flew over the 911 north.
Really?
Wow.
You take that out?
One of our kids, or I need a visit. Flags out right now.
I know.
And I found it on eBay, but it's $175 for one book.
Okay,
Can I vote?
that will be a roll call.
Okay, Winchester, here. Stillwell,
There.
Miller, here. Johnson,
Here.
Collis.
Yes. Motion would entertain, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion by Winchester, support by Stillwell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda. All items listed under consent agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial. They do not require discussion by the NOCFA board and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion. If, however, discussion is desired on an item, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will automatically be moved to the last item under new business.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Winchester, support by Stillwell.
Excuse
Roll
me.
call, please.
Wasn't that,
Oh, it was you? I'm sorry. Motion by, Winchester, support by Johnson. Roll call, please.
Winchester,
Yes.
Stillwell,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Collis, or Johnson,
Yes.
Collis.
Yes. Motion carries 5-0. Public comment on agenda items only. Members of the public may address the board once recognized by the chair. Comments are limited to 3 minutes prior to addressing the board. Members of the public will state their name and their address for the record. A second public comment is available prior to the adjournment of the meeting for all other comments. Thank you for your cooperation. Only once, twice, thrice. We will move on. We have no presentations. That takes us to unfinished business. Establish a capital equipment fund. Chief. Good evening.
Everybody doing well?
Mhm.
All right, so on our radar is attempting to establish this fund separate from our operating budget. And what I understood by marching orders from last meeting were to start the painful process of vendors contacting us to sell apparatus. So I did. My phone hasn't started ringing yet, but the vendor show was just last week. So I would expect to start hearing some numbers soon, although I'm fairly confident that the numbers I have presented for this year are pretty close, especially when I started throwing those numbers at the vendors. So basically what we're going to look for is a budgetary number, which they typically inflate 20 to 30% with a swag guess of what commodities may or may not do in the upcoming years. So I don't know that we're going to have it tuned in much more than we already have it, but we're going to take a crack at it for sure. But it's looking, right, like it's a $2 million a year happening.
Okay. So in other words, a lot of raffle tickets.
A heck of a lot around.
Called funky page.
Well, yeah, I mean, how do we, how does this board do that, right? We can't. So this is the hard conversation that has to go back to the municipalities to say, right, we have an issue that we need to resolve. Our hand is out, not mine, but our hand is out. And how are we gonna make something appear? So I'm not quite sure how to proceed with that. I'm looking for advice. I will make presentations, have conversations, however that needs to happen. That's what I'm here for, to advocate for that. So I
Anybody else have any comments?
My ears are wide open.
All right, then we'll go into new business. Number one is the attorney services.
Yes, our attorney, Rita Lauer, she is transitioning from her current firm, Madden Hauser, to, Irving Brothers. They're in Grand Blanc, they're a lot closer. I have the paperwork to keep her on board as our attorney going to the new firm. I am asking for permission to sign that paperwork just to keep things moving quickly. So I think we need a motion and
Let's stay the same. Or less.
I think they would. The current, what she, sent me today. Here we go. I believe we're paying $175 an hour. And with the engagement letter, it was $150 an hour.
Okay.
And then, $100 an hour for associate and 75 for paralegal. So very comparable.
Right. Okay. Any other discussion?
I would move to approve Rita Lauer as our attorney, for Madden Hauser attorneys and counselors, and having, the chief sign the agreement. Harvey's, oh, that's,
I know.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, thank you.
What was that?
I'm just looking at it, I'm reading off the letter.
Harvey Cruz.
Yeah, Harvey Cruz. Yeah. Not Madden.
Oh, I was gonna say, man, okay. All right, I'll support.
I am Madden.
Motion by Winchester, support by Collis, all in favor, it's a contract we should do with roll call.
Stillwell,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Winchester,
Yes.
Howard.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Under new business number 2, July 1st, 2025 meeting. Proposed resolution 2025 pulled down. Now, does this take us through the 6-month calendar?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And the 6-month calendar is because we're changing over the financial calendar for the department. The new calendar will be January 1st through December 31st. So we have to do a little 6-month intermission, so to speak, to get us there. Your fiscal year will be January 1st to December. He's looking at me like it's the first time he's heard it.
No,
Oh, okay, you can have that look on your face.
I listen intensely to how you
Oh,
speak the dates.
okay.
Current and new dates, please?
This calendar year will go July 1st through December 31st. Then from that point going forward, our fiscal years will match the calendar years.
Once again, I'm gonna ask if you can move the time of the board meetings to earlier. We had them at 3 for a while until we had the fallout with everybody.
Other people on the board,
I can't make that early.
How early can you make it?
Earliest I could make it would be 6 o'clock.
Mhm.
how does that affect people in the audience?
Not well.
So staying where we are is better.
What are the two times?
Either, well, we're currently 6:30. Karen suggested 3. Our citizen at large said 6 is as early as he could make it. That's what's been bounced around so far.
I think you have to accommodate. Yeah.
A job outside the area, so.
You don't have to apologize.
The money you're making here, you should be able to retire.
Well, shall I jump in there?
Well, we had, did I just make a motion? No, we had talked about at the beginning of the year for the amendments to the articles, adding payment for the citizen because of the time required. And we never volunteered that. So, I mean, I realize it wouldn't be a full-time job payment, but at least it would compensate-ish, kind of, maybe a little bit, for a half hour of your normal.
Well, I thought we beat that horse already. We decided he wasn't gonna give nothing.
I don't want anything.
Fair enough. Just throwing it out.
Well, I would have.
Just, I'm throwing away money, I just gave him a
And
quarter.
that wouldn't change his time when he could be here, so. Unless you added 5 more zeros to it.
There's your work.
Okay. All right, so Chair will entertain a motion.
I make a motion to keep the time of the NOCFA meetings at 6:30.
That's not the motion.
Okay.
We need a motion to approve the meeting dates, July 1st through December 30th.
But somebody else can do the right thing.
I'll move to approve the NOCFA meeting dates beginning in July 22nd through December 23rd to accommodate our new fiscal year.
Resolution 2501.
Resolution 25.
Support.
I'm sorry, don't we have to say through the 31st?
31st.
Yeah, this will be our last date. That'll be the last meeting. But yeah, we will go through the 31st for the fiscal year.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor to approve meeting dates for July 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025. Resolution 2025-01. Supported by, motion by Miller, support by Winchester.
Support by Stillwell. I mean, motion, oh, that's right, then, sorry.
I didn't do it right.
Geez, you started it.
Yeah.
Motion to the wrong thing.
Well, we had a couple things going there and I thought
That was just part of the discussion.
Okay.
You're exhausted, you can hear Matt. It's a resolution, I need a roll call, please.
Miller,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Winchester,
Yes.
Stillwell,
Yes.
Hollis.
Yes, I was expecting somebody to go, yes, no. Motion carried 5-0.
And that was supported by Winchester, wasn't it?
Yep.
Thank you.
Number 3.
Much to your chagrin.
Number 3, authorize short-term disability beginning July 1st, 2025 for the approved tentative agreement to extend the collective bargaining agreement.
So this has been before us a couple of times already, and I apologize for the typos. It's zero, the first bullet is 0-day waiting period, not $0. It is 60% wage replacement, and it's under 5,000 per year annually for the entire benefit. So I don't know how I missed that, but I apologize for that. I'm looking for approval and authorization from the board to execute all necessary documentation to get this implemented to take effect July 1, 2025.
Okay, this is something that was discussed both in closed session and in the open meeting.
Yeah, I don't have it. Did I not give it to everybody?
I can get that.
Oh,
I wasn't in the backup. I didn't know it was germane to pass the contract on. I see it, but it-
okay.
And that was part of a letter of understanding.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I thought because we.
We approved that already. Okay,
Yeah, I'm just looking for authorization to sign
okay.
and get this.
Yeah, we had to call a special meeting to cover the signing part once before, so it's all like.
Yeah.
Motion to approve the chief to sign the short-term disability contract. Is there support?
Support.
Motion by Cullis, support by Stillwell. It's a contract, so we'll do resolution again. Or not resolution, roll call.
Johnson,
Yes.
Winchester,
Yes.
Stillwell,
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Hollis.
Yes. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Number 4, adopt the annual exemption option as set forth in the 2011 Public Act 152, the Publicly Funded Health Insurance Contribution Act, proposed resolution 2025. Per the agreed tentative agreement to extend a collective bargaining agreement. Karen, did you want to take that?
No,
Matt?
How much? How much?
I don't have.
In the township, Karen does a lot of that stuff.
Oh, I do, but I mean, I'm giving it to him.
I got it.
Okay. So how much depth do we want to go in, right? We've talked about this, I think, a bit, not quite to ad nauseum, but with the current climate being what it is in healthcare and the state's hard caps, we cannot maintain an affordable plan for our employees out of pocket with what we're paying and what we're presenting as a raise. The net increase, follow the letter of understanding or extension of the contract. Obviously, the more money you make, higher your raise would be and the less impact it would have on your out-of-pocket for medical. However, it's still 1 to 2% of what the net effective raise would be. So the only way we can get around this is to get rid of the hard cap, period. And that's what this resolution before you is to do, is it will get us through the 6-month period, at our attorney's advice to get rid of the hard cap, and then out-of-pocket expenses will remain the same for all employees. So that includes myself and Jeremy and all the folks in the bargaining unit. So it's a broad brush stroke of effect. And just like a broad brush stroke of effect would be if we didn't do this and I chose to take a different health plan, my out-of-pockets would increase. And if I chose the same health plan, out-of-pockets would still increase. So this is something that we need to do. We've already talked about and agreed to do it. This is the formal place to make that happen.
And again, this is for a 6-month period. It's part of that LOU because it fell on an awkward date. We had come to the agreement on the LOU and about 2 days or 3 days later, the insurance company set the increase, and the increase than the raise that was given in the contract. So by doing this for the 6 months, it gets the LOU out of the way, and it then all becomes part of the negotiation of the contract moving forward. And the union also extended their contract 6 months, just as we are, to get that fiscal calendar adjustment. Their new 3-year contract will actually start January 1st of 2026.
And just to throw this out there for everybody, this may be a moot point. There's legislation currently sitting that's not been forwarded to the governor's office by some snafu in all of those folks that sit high on the hill.
Called politics.
That's exactly what it's called, where this has been repealed by both sides of the government. It has not hit the governor's desk to be signed into law. So more to follow on that. There's a lot of folks watching this very closely. So again, this may be a moot point come, January, heck, maybe even come next month. So, but again, to take action now to make this happen is what we have.
We do it at the township.
Yeah. So, but it's,
You don't use the cap. Is what you're saying.
Yeah, we use this
well,
resolution.
but part of the reason we do that is because up until now, we have found the insurance policy that keeps us below the required numbers and enables us to do that. That's the problem here. These numbers have gone beyond the cap. And that's what's wrong.
Well, I have to say this carefully because I'm included in it. A lot of our surees are not spring chickens. And we're getting older. And as you know, with healthcare, the older you get, the more the premiums are. If we had a whole bunch of 21 and 25-year-olds, I'm sure our premiums would be way lower. The bulk of us are north of 50. So,
Well, we have a family, and like any other family is. Because we also have older people, we also have younger people having children, that makes a difference as well.
absolutely.
I mean, I get it.
It's a mishmash.
This, like I said, it boils down to politics. The bill has been passed, it's waiting. They haven't put it on the governor's chair for a reason.
Right.
They're holding it back to get something else.
It's what it is.
You want this, I want that, let's play it. Go back and forth. But, all right. Is there any other discussion? Did we entertain a motion? Everybody jumped in.
Dan's got a mouthful of chocolate, but he can't.
Make a motion to adopt the annual exemption option as set forth in 2011 Public Act 152, the Publicly Funded Health Insurance Contribution Act, proposed resolution 2025-02.
Support.
With an end date of,
Well,
It's in the resolution.
It's in the
is it,
resolution.
well, it just doesn't show here, so I wanted to make sure. Okay. And support by Dan Johnson. Roll call, please.
Winchester,
Yes.
Stillwell,
Yes.
Miller, yes, Johnson,
Yes.
Hollis,
Yes. Motion carries 5-0. That moves us right on down to reports, including monthly incident data for April 2025.
Trying to get organized here. All right, we are moving on. So, the monthly reports, 127 for last month. Busy-ish month, for sure.
yeah,
Looking at the breakdown, excuse me, 57 and 54, right? So, and 5 out on the expressway. The biggest thing that we're running into, with the expressway, which I'll get into in a minute, obviously is access and increasing runs because of it. So, I will say that, and I hate to say it's feast or famine, but some days are 1 or 2 run days, and many days have been 7 to 10 call days lately. So we are under stress to perform, and some of these runs, it's not every couple hours, it's every, in a couple hour period, we're getting hit with 4 or 5 runs. So, just to be aware that we are getting busier for whatever reason that is, and we are only turn maybe 1 or 2 calls over to Detroit, just because we've got ambulances out everywhere except where the next call is, so. So that's where we're at with that.
So these, I'm looking at the Act 75, there's 5 calls. But were you involved in the Grove one, the 2 that were up on the ramp?
Yes.
Because those were Grove Township, but.
Yeah.
The township line crosses the expressway.
So the township line starts about the North Holly Road exit, or Grange Hall Road exit ramp on 75, and it kind of runs north and eastish through where it intersects at Grange Hall, kind of up through CMI Drive and whatnot. So once you get west of that, that's Holly Township. So both of those accidents technically are Holly Township, even though the news said.
But are they counted as I-75? No.
They are.
Oh, they are. Okay.
Yes, and that's for last month. So both of those runs occurred this week.
Gotcha. But I didn't know if, I guess what I was asking is the only county is down on the expressway or on top of the line?
Down on the way. So if it's in 4 lanes, that's an I-75 run. If it's on Grange Hall, it is not.
So those would be for the I-75.
One of them. One will because it was on 75, one will not because it was on.
Okay.
Chief, did you say the runs that you guys can't take, you were turning over to Detroit?
Mutual aid.
Okay,
We had ambulances everywhere already except where they were supposed to be.
there's no other ambulance closer, like Groveland or?
Yeah, Groveland. Oh, Groveland, Village of Holly, Highland, we would use Springfield.
Okay, I thought you said you turned it over to Detroit. No, that's a long way.
No, we've not. No. And actually, one of the runs we turned over, we told the village initially, they got a call like 38 seconds later in the village or just before on the same street, except we were down in Rose Township on that same street. Roland ended up coming to take that call. So it was a double whammy on that. I mean, when we get busy up here in the north corner, we get busy and it's a whole list.
We have had mutual aid. When the fire in the village happened, they came as far from Detroit
Mhm.
for that village fire. Okay. Anything else in the report?
We got a whole health staff.
Well, then don't stop and take a breath. Keep on.
And we didn't do that. So as I typically have a format, I report on our apparatus. And right now, this moment in time, as of 5 minutes ago, we're okay as far as repairs and so forth. We're still dealing with nickel and dime type stuff. We had some damage to a truck Our brand new brush truck, yes, our brand new brush truck, about $6,000 worth of damage. So we're responsible for the deductible on that. I included a photo in there. The truck was off road and, we aspires through fields and woods. And, this is not the first brush truck that we've rented over the years. The truck was just replaced. We had to take the bed off because there wasn't a straight panel on it. Just from, contact with trees or rocks or whatever. So, obviously this is going to get repaired and taken care of through our insurance company. So we'll have $1,000 deductible on that. And we're going to put a more robust set of running boards on it that hopefully will help take some of the damage.
Where was this, Matt?
It was on a Rose Township.
I know, but where
On the truck or the incident?
was the outdoor fire in Rose Township?
It was behind Stanzig's.
Yeah, the tree farm.
Yep.
Stands road.
Yeah.
Fish like.
Yeah, so it's new equipment. So last AFG cycle, we were looking for a skid unit for a brush truck. Right, we already have one for the new truck. Wanted to get a matching one for the old truck. We finally took delivery of that. So that brand new skid unit is going to go into a 1999 Ford pickup truck. It is what it is. So what that does though is, it takes the total $100,000 purchase of the truck, the skid and the stuff and things. And now we've spent, we'll just round it at $16,000 for the skid. So that saved us that much money when we go to replace the truck. So it's better than a truck second unit.
It was a tactic we wrote for the truck and the skid unit 3 times. I never got it, so we eliminated the truck just for the unit, got it. So we put it on the other truck.
Right?
Yeah, so, we'll run the truck on the ground and then put another truck underneath it and go. That's the beauty part about the skid units is, we buy it for a short bed truck. So we put it in a long bed or a short bed or whatever we end up with. And it's only 120 gallons of water and 5 gallons of foam. So it's not overly heavy either. So anyway, that's what's going on with that. I don't know if you've heard that there's some construction on I-75. I say that tongue in cheek. There's been a lot of consternation lately around the whole project. I've received several screenshots of myself on the news, voice clips from WWJ, right? All kinds of stuff and things about the message we're trying to get out, right? And a lot of it's been fun, but in seriousness, looking at the 2 accidents you brought up, which I'll go into later in detail in the report, but those are results directly from 2 things: conditions and people, right? Inattention and what the conditions are. So we meet often with MDOT every 2 weeks on a Monday, specific to this I-75 project. Jacob Krug is the project manager of Fishbeck. They're the ones that are responsible for the project execution. MDOT obviously is the one providing the oversight. In those meetings, typically there's 2 or 3 MDOT representatives from Fishbeck, myself, Chief Williams, Chief Covey, Independence Assistant Chief Stamper is typically on those calls too. And, we get updated as to what's going on with the project that week or those 2 weeks, what's closed, what's open, how far are they down the strip with grinding, are they laying the pavement, right? Whatever's going on. We typically get that. But we also have the opportunity to complain and bring issues up that we run into. So obviously the car fire accident was brought up, which that is a direct track being passed on 2 secondary roads that they're just not meant for all this extra traffic. And then the other was the fatal, which, that was a result of nowhere to go and the guy got out of his car and got hit. So, we're looking for some MDOT solutions. They do listen to us. And at this point, I hope for an update here next Monday as to what they're going to do as far as the Green Chalk corridor goes. They've committed to everything from making it 2 4-way stops, which I just can't see working at all. I think that'll cause more issues than it'll solve. We've asked for temporary traffic control, so you can control traffic from each side of the bridge, allow the left turns, right, and so forth and so on, to keep things a little more ordered, which seems to be the problem of the day is everybody gets impatient and they go left turn out on the Green Fall, whether you're exiting north or southbound and you turn right out in front of somebody and get slumped. As well as Dixie Highway in Grange Hall is another problem point. As I was sitting there today, facing northbound, I saw a guy make a left-hand turn right in front of oncoming traffic, and I was like, here we go. So near miss after near miss. Again, they're on that. One of the other conversations that we have is enforcement. What can we do with keeping this corridor safe through enforcement? There's a couple of issues that keep popping up. One of them is for Holly and Groveland Township. We don't contract with the sheriff's office, so we don't have a say in what really happens as far as the allocation of our leasing, right? However, Captain Miles, she sits on these meetings also, and the county has a traffic enforcement unit that is funded through grants to, by the way, traffic county roads. Well, this so happens that Dixie Highway north of I-75 in Springfield Township's county road all the way to the county line, and Grange Hall Road is also county road, so is East Holland. So I pleaded and begged with her on behalf of the townships, as well as Chief Williams has on behalf of Groveland, to make an attempt at getting them to do a blitz up this way to slow people down and get some attention on the county roads. Now, they won't necessarily do that out on the freeway because it's not necessarily their jurisdiction. That's NDOT and state. So when I have that same conversation with MSP and Lieutenant Allison, he sits on these meetings as well. I've got 2 troopers chasing calls in 3 townships. That's 3,000 calls. They don't have time to sit on the freeway and write tickets or patrol going for tickets. However, so I'm like, there's a pause there. If MDOT will fund that enforcement, I'll pull troops from Saginaw or wherever I have to meet that overtime demand or that funding. So the next conversation is to MDOT. Ma'am, will you fund this? Well, no, it's a county road. It's county jurisdiction. It's not MDOT's jurisdiction. So I haven't stopped having that conversation with MDOT yet to throw money at the problem here on secondary roads that their project is causing. However, go back to MSP. Right, this is just a big, right? So I'm like, LT, you gotta help us up here. Send some folks, do something, please, because we're drowning in all of these issues. I saw one today, the motorcycles. So they just got out of class. Apparently they trained another handful of motors, we call them motors. They trained another handful of them, and they're gonna start buzzing them over this way. So we should see hopefully some motorcycles and county blitzing this area to get folks slowed down. So township folks, if you get phone calls, they were issued, residents were issued citations by the county, don't give them my number. Just saying. Okay. So that's where all that kind of sits.
We'll send them to Julius.
Perfect. Mr. Starry, ready to handle that? Nope.
Say yes, sir.
If residents start getting issued tickets by Oakland County Sheriff's Department, don't send them my way.
I heard that, yeah.
So we're gonna send them to you instead.
Oh, okay.
You be the complaint department. No.
Yeah, because I'm a competent, you have excellent phone skills. I've talked to you on the phone before. I want to become a listener with you.
Right.
He calls with a question,
Yep.
he gets an answer.
So the last point on all of this I'd like to bring up is disappointment. And it's not with anybody in this room. Last year, there was legislation that passed and went into effect for automated speed enforcement. And I apologize, this is probably a bit of an effort. I was excited when it passed. I read the law, I thought it applied, and then I started making some phone calls and was sadly told it does not apply. And here's the paradox. Because this project has a cement barrier between moving traffic and workers, it does not apply. Because there's a cement barrier between the workers and traffic, it does not apply. So everybody that's speeding through this compounded, barricaded, two-lane mess is untouchable. Because where on earth is there a safe place to make a traffic stop?
Right, not gonna happen.
Mhm.
So when you speak with representatives, I urge you to bring this up. I realize this was done to protect construction workers, and I 1000% support that. I'm not a construction worker, but I know the guy standing on the side of the road getting splashed with road wash by people drive by at 70 miles an hour. I get it. However, there needs to be some common sense put into this legislature where you've got traffic so impounded and such a flagrant regard for whatever, life, property, and safety, that this has to be applied. And I understand that some folks are freaking out that this is an overreach of government, Big Brother, all of these things. But for crying out loud, you come out with us and pick up body parts off the road after these incidents happen, right? This is ridiculous. So please, I urge you to make contact with our folks that are writing these laws, and I would be happy to testify to the fact that it just doesn't work and it should be applied here. So that's my point.
Yeah, are they still driving 120 miles an hour through there?
So I'm asking for the speed data. I have not seen it yet. I'm not 100% convinced that those signs went back up, so that's why I'm asking the question. So, and I've not sat out there with a radar gun either. So,
Can they post an MSP with a radar gun and camera and just send these people these tickets?
No.
yeah, it's,
Now, they can't clock here and pull them over at the end of the shoot either.
yeah, right. It just turns into a difficult thing. I mean, I can remember as a kid, I do, because I lived just on the other side of I-75. I can remember hearing the planes fly over and the marks on the road. We used to use planes to do speed enforcement. That's kind of gone away, but at the same point, you still have to have a place to stop that car and issue them their written scoop under the district court. So without that shoulder out there on the road, it's difficult to make that enforcement stop. There are some pull-offs, but the point was brought up by the guys doing the work on the road is as soon as they pull up behind somebody and they light them up, stop them, they stop in the road. Right? They don't go to the next pull-off and pull off where they're least out of the travel of traffic. They just stop in the middle of the road. So that in and of itself creates a problem. Right? So it's difficult at best. And, we're struggling with it. All of us are, all the departments up here. We take this to heart because, we're the guys standing up there on the side of the road dealing with this stuff and stopping traffic or trying to divert traffic. And it's stressful. It's fun getting better.
Is that the end of your report?
No, sir.
Pardon?
And you didn't direct to talk about it.
I just checked.
Yep, I appreciate you. Uncovered shifts, last month we were 1.5%, which, 43 open hours out of 2,800 is really not that bad of a number. I expect this month it's going to be a bit higher, but we'll see what the proof and quitting is. Our mutual aids, they were down a bit last month, around 8%. We've been in the teens typically every month as far as what we're sending out for mutual aid. We had 2 significant responses outside of the storm, so we'll just talk about the accident first. So you made mention Grange Hall and the southbound I-75 off-ramp. We had a gentleman who was heading into town, and somebody on the ramp pulled out in front of him. He swerved to miss and sideswiped one of Bedrock's semis. His vehicle separated from the frame. They ended on the ground. He was still in the tub of the Jeep, so it's the body. When it caught fire, bystanders involved in the accident acted quickly and was able to get him out of there. But, you know, again, this is a case of our traffic. We can turn left, we can turn left, we can turn left. I'm going to take a chance. And we have this accident. Unacceptable at best, but it's what happened. So we obviously sent this up to MDOT. Made a press release. I got quite a bit of contact back from the press about it. You know, there's reports on TV, there's social media. So I think we got the word out, at least on this particular event, whether it sinks in or not, right? We'll see where that goes. Shortly on the heels of that, we had a fatal accident. This was on I-75 proper, southbound, just north of Grange Hall. So that is also Holly Township. To me, what's unclear is if the vehicle lost control and spun out, in any event, this vehicle became disabled, whether through damage of an accident or mechanical issues. Gentleman got out of the car to assess the damage. His vehicle was hit. He was near the car. He got sent out into traffic where he was hit and killed again. Hit again and killed. Right, exactly. Right.
Yeah, I told you I had to kill twice.
Make sure. No.
So that's why they have double indemnity.
Yes. A very unfortunate incident that occurred there. And, you know, again, when the reports came in, you know, we hear what dispatch is telling us. They're listening to people on the road, and there's a dead body in the road. I can't stop safely to do anything, right? And we're listening to this as we're responding to the call. And then we know that we had difficulty getting there just because of where that accident is. We can't just jump on a ramp and drive to it or get on the expressway and get there. So, I mean, Nick was on duty, Sergeant Tosh was on duty that night. He took the construction road, parked, walked across the little bit of median that's there to tend to the call. I responded from home, and I went up the wrong way on the off ramp and actually shut I-75 right down and started diverting traffic off onto Grange Hall. So as I'm standing there, I don't have a big truck, but the truck's all lit up. I've got flares out. It's raining. I am soaking wet from my head to toe because people are driving past me at 60 and 70 miles an hour as I'm pointing them off the expressway, and water is just coming from their tires at me. The flares are going out because they're just getting ran over. This is the kind of crap we deal with. And this fellow lost his life, and we're trying to keep everybody and everything safe, and people just don't care. And they're just ripping right by us. They're coming right up at the last minute and slamming on their brakes, and here I stand. Okay? So obviously this is an issue that just keeps compounding and compounding and compounding for us. We did have mutual aid come up and help us with that as part of our combined response on I-75. Springfield Township came up. They actually handled traffic at Grange Hall Road for us to get people going the right way, so they didn't try to do whatever it is people do. At least had them out the Dixie Highway so they could get back going south again. So again, there was a pretty intense incident. We were out there for several hours until MSP finally had enough things and assets there to get and keep the road closed. MDOT was helpful. We got a hold of them early. They sent the courtesy vans up, trailer as well to block off all the way up at Dixie Highway or Saginaw so that nothing got on the southbound and everything was diverted off the southbound. And by the way, a couple of days ago in Northern Hills, one of those trucks got blasted. Courtesy, yes, sir. Yep. So, yeah, I mean, this is a systemic problem that's going on, not just in Holly and Grambling Township and Springfield Township and Independence and Roland Township. This is all up and down 75. So it is what it is. Keep turning out on it until it's done. If there's any input back this way, please, you know, I'm all ears and listening, and anything that we can do, we're going to do to try to help the situation and not make it. So, okay. And then, I don't know if you have heard, but we had this storm go through. We lost all our trees over here. I don't know if you guys had a minute to walk around. But that day, May 16th, we had over 30 calls per service, and that's not just on top of normal calls.
Those numbers are not in this report.
No, that'll be the next board report.
That's true, I'm sorry.
So just because the wind blows and trees fall and wires fall, doesn't mean Mrs. Smith doesn't have difficulty breathing or, two people colliding in an intersection for a rock or other things. So along with the storm calls, we dealt with, 3 or 4 other actual emergency calls with breathing, accident, transport. But here's the fun part. That day prior, between 2 and 4 o'clock, we ran 8 calls, I think, or 7 calls. So the crews were already exhausted from handling all of those calls, and then the storm rolls through. So they're up all the way through the night into the next day. A bit of an exception, not necessarily the rule. But what that brings with us, to us though, is, heavily impacted roads, right? We're not the road commission, so we don't clear the road completely. We just try to punch a lane through for traffic so we can get our big red trucks there. Sometimes that means, yes, we clear the road, but debris is left on the side for our road commission to come pick up. One of the issues that goes with that is wires. In Great Lakes, which is kind of in the path of all this destruction, if you watched back over here, the back part of Great Lakes sub had trees and wires come down all knotted together. So nobody could cut. So we had half a dozen houses plus in the whole back of that subdivision that were completely blocked in. They had absolutely zero way to get out of there unless they walked on foot, or we went into them with an ATV from Hess Road. So that was a problem. I think I got my first phone call early that morning from a president with a pregnant wife and a 1-year-old. Help, get me out of here. And I'm like, hold on, let me come see you. So I took a walk, hop fences, and wandered around back there, met with them face to face, understood what his needs were. We got him some water to get by for a day. And finally, when I was there, handing that water off, there was tree crews in the neighborhood. I made a bad assumption that it was contractors for consumers. My first tip-off should have been a pickup bed full of people driving back through the subdivision to cut trees. I wasn't smart enough that moment in time, but they cut halfway up West Lake Shore and then they stopped and then they disappeared. So here, in my mind, things were being taken care of. Resident calls me again in the morning, absolutely freaking out. I got to get out of here. I got to get my wife out of here. She can't take it anymore. So I went back, talked to him again, face to face. We couldn't figure out what was going on. So at that point in time, we started to put a plan together to evacuate these residents. So whether it was, I went home and got my radio Jeep and drove it through the woods to go pick them up, or we did the ATV with the trailer or something. So we started formulating a plan. I contacted the Emergency Operations Center for the county because all of the phone numbers for Consumers Power I had, nobody cared to answer the phone. So I finally got a good number. Got a hold of somebody at Consumers and gave them the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Why is there not a crew out here? We've got residents trapped. I've got a pregnant lady back here that needs to get out. This is a health and safety issue. I ended up calling their security hotline, or I remember the exact name, but he said, "Yeah, right, sir, I'll call you back in 10 minutes. 9 minutes later, he called me back. He said, the forestry department head is going to call you. Is this a good number?" Yes. 4 minutes later, 5 minutes later, she was on the phone. She said, "Tell me what's going on. I'm already pulling crews to send your way. I need to know exactly what's happening." So I gave her the whole story again. Call me back a little bit later. She says, "All right, we have to wait until somebody from the energy department gets there to do a cut and clear. They're on their way from Saginaw." Okay. All right, stuff's happening, right? Forestry called me back and said, "I've got crews. They're staged with on Hess Road. That was about noon. Got on the phone again with the energy supervisor. We'll be there in 10 minutes. 9 minutes later, they pulled into Great Lakes. There was already a crew sitting there to do the cut and clear. I brought them in. They walked it and they were cutting stuff with bolt cutters to clear the wires out of there. 4 o'clock that night, the families were able to get out, including some shut-ins that were elderly. They get the family and get taken care of. So that was a huge relief. And then by about 7 or 8 o'clock that night, power was restored. So I guess when you get the right phone number, you can make some stuff happen. And I was absolutely grateful for that. We had contacted emergency management. As I said, we had 30 cases of water delivered here just so we could hand stuff over and keep them in the house, right? I mean, everybody sitting at this table understands, well, most everybody. Wells need electricity, toilets need water. With no electricity and no water, you've got to have water to flush your toilet. And it's a bit of a issue. So if folks don't prepare and keep 5-gallon buckets of water or have a generator, however, this is what some of the end results are. So that being what it was, I think we came out fairly okay in the scenario. George, you'd asked me about an EF number, right? Did we get a tornado or not? So I followed back up again with emergency management, and the National Weather Service did in fact come out. They did assess the damage, and they said, "Sorry, you don't get the box checked. We are straight line winds."
Wow. Even though that whole thing looks all wicked and twisted, it's the curviest straight line I've ever seen.
Understood. Again, I'm not the expert. I'm just the guy that picks up the mess.
It was a straight line, wind that brought its own mixture.
It did. It did. So all in all, it is what it is. Again, the news was out for that. And Channel 5 and Channel 4 did pieces on the damage up here. So we've had quite a bit of media coverage over the last couple of weeks. So that everybody knows the northwest part of the county exists. So we're still at a rough average of 4 calls a day. We still keep working on negotiations, which those will pick up again mid-ish next month. Doug, you want to report?
Just to amplify the map, just driving in the storm. I spent the storm in Rose Township. And what was amazing is that numerous streets down on Milford Road, and when we responded to it, we ended up finding a car that had run into the tree blocking the road, which never even got reported. We had one tree across Milford Road where Franklin and the railroad tracks. It was on top of a house. That never came in. Power lines down. So keeping Milford Road open was a challenge. One of our biggest problems was Buckhorn Lake Road, where we had multiple 100-year-old plus oak trees across the road. And we had Roger there with his backhoe that's pretty substantial, and we couldn't move them. I have to compliment the road commission. They sent their grader operator out there with the grader, and it is amazing to watch that grader work, how it can articulate itself behind where the operator sits and the power that it has pushing it. So we would cut some and they would push. They stayed with us for hours pushing the road. So that was terrific. On another note, we had one major public safety event, the community risk reduction program we have at Rose Hill. It was their flower day. If you haven't been there, it's a major operation. Randy ran that in ambulances and firefighting equipment there for the public. Randy, could you want to say a couple words on that?
We just had a very good turnout. Folks in our equipment, they had a lot of customers there, and we had a lot of interaction with their customers, coming to the barn, coming to our place, passing out little kids, re-inquiries for how do we get on to the fire department. We passed all that information on. I'm not sure if anything's gotten to the level of the office here yet, but there were people asking. So it's always a great contact event. We're out there, we're in uniform, our trucks are there, we're seeing. And it was a nice sunny day, so that brought a lot of people.
Younger folks interested? The three you're talking about?
We've had some younger folks, yes.
Good, we give some of the old people so we can drop our insurance. Is that the wrong thing to say? Yeah, it wasn't.
Right by these.
Just so everybody knows, I was kidding. Wherever the speakers are.
Careful on younger.
But the reason I bring that up is it's a big event. When you think about the population of the community and so forth, I would estimate that there was well over 1,000 people there that day. So not only were we doing the community event from the fire protection and prevention standpoint, we're also available there should something occur. It also gives me the opportunity, if Randy's running the show, to take some of our newer people that participate into some of the areas of Rose Hill that they've never seen, and just see the activity so that they're not seeing it the first time at midnight in the rain, you know. So anyway, that's what I have.
Maybe anything you look at? No? Randy, good? Association?
I got something brief for the association.
So we can have nice stuff.
That's Greg Allen.
This is Greg Allen. He is the president.
I was gonna announce myself.
Oh, I'm.
My apologies, sir.
Greg Allen, I'm the secretary of the North Oakland County Firefighters Association. Just real briefly, we didn't have a meeting in May. We normally have the second week, I should say, of every month. So May we did not have one. It's the second week, the second Sunday in May, just happened to be Mother's Day. So we didn't have a meeting in May, but we plan on having our next meeting June 8th coming up. So dating back to April, we did have a couple of donations that went out. We had a fire down on Cog Shell Road, which completely destroyed their home. And we made a monetary donation to that family in regards to that. And then we made a food donation to the Oakland County Sheriff's Department dispatchers back on April 17th for telecommunications week. So we took some food up for them to share. I think, did you make 3 trips, Logan, for each of the shifts, or just one, and then they could pick it as they felt the need be throughout the day and night. And I think that's it. So yeah, it's real brief, but that's where we stand currently.
Thanks, Greg.
You're welcome.
That concludes our report, sir.
Okay. Never accuse me of talking long.
I'll accuse you. Takes one to know one. That was a 40-minute report. I know, it takes one to know one.
Okay. After the firefighters, we go to Holly Township. I don't have anything to report to you at this point. Actually, I went back up and say that right now there's a meeting going on at the village offices regarding the dam in Holly. There's been a lot out on the internet. Some flyers have been out. Some of the questions that I would have asked had I been here at that meeting, I sent along with some documentation and questions. First, we heard that the village got a letter, then it turns out there is no letter, because somebody tried to FOIA it, and the response was they didn't get a letter. It came through the Zoom meeting. So I know David Wilson, who is in charge of the Shiawassee River Coalition, was at that meeting tonight. I had a chance to talk with him, along with Mr. Monitor, your trustee, and I gave him a map. This dam doesn't just affect the NOCFA in Holly. It goes up the line. There's a subdivision in Rose Township that has private wells, 120 some homes are there, and it goes all the way through there. And if anybody's had a chance to drive through Davisburg and see what happened when they got rid of the dam in there, that lake is just gone. And the river, quote unquote, is about 3 feet wide, a little trickle. But more importantly, it's my understanding that half the residents on that lake lost their wells and had to dig the wells. So the questions that I had put forward through Dave Losing were, where's the report? Where's the study that shows the problem, that pinpoints it specifically? More importantly, is there within that report a recipe to correct the problem? How do we remediate the situation going forward? And that's both, because it's also my understanding that it's not the dam that's the problem per se. It has to do with the berm that's next to it. Now, today I had an opportunity to walk out there on the dam, on the berm, and it all looks brand new. It's quite large. There doesn't appear to be any seepage on either side. It's my understanding that it was constructed wrong. At that point, where's the set of plans that were laid out before the project began? And can you pinpoint specifically what was done wrong that has your concern? Because everything's been very vague at this point. But this is a big deal, and it affects it doesn't just affect 17 residents on the pond. It affects an entire community, an entire region. This is water. This is fresh water. What happens when you draw down the water? What happens to septic fields that are out along that area? Where are these studies? The concerns that you posted, has any of it been signed by a geologist, or is there a hydrology report that shows what that effect is going to have? What's it going to do to the Shire? You know, the Shiawassee just got named a National Paddle Trail not too long ago. So there's a lot of information that needs to be there. And where are those? So we'll see what comes from that report tonight. That is one thing that even though the village, quote unquote, owns that dam, we know as a municipality that it wasn't necessarily the village that built the dam. It was built many, many years ago to service commercial industry, and dams, just like cemeteries, end up in the hands of the local government because nobody wants to take care of them anymore. Nobody wants to be involved in them anymore. And state bosses, that's where they land. So there's a lot of things to be looked at this thing going forward. One of the questions I had was, what about turning it over to Water Resource Commission, Oakland County? And the answer that was initially given to them was it wasn't in their drain district. Well, we know through Holly Township, because we've had this conversation about a couple of areas that we were looking at. How do we get an old farmer's drain that has been crushed and is no longer replaced by farmers because the farms have turned into neighborhoods? How do you get that drain, which is important, that connects to Shorts Creek? It's off of North Holly Road. How do we get that to become a drain that the county would take over? And they said you have to apply for a drain district. So when they tell you it's not within their drain district, does that mean that the communities, Village of Holly, Rose Township, Springfield, perhaps, whoever is deemed affected by that whole project, is that something that needs to happen? So there's a lot of questions that need to be asked and answered as they move forward. But it is something that's currently being discussed. Now, sir, Rose Township.
I have a quick question for Matt, if I may. Does NOCFA have any wells in the area of the mill pond that would be impacted?
Not directly.
Okay.
Good question.
Just in Springfield Township had a dry hydrant into their mill pond, and when they eliminated that eliminated that water supply for the community. Right. And they're struggling to get the new well that they put in to perform sufficiently to match what they were able to get out of the mill pond. Because it goes to your point that it extends beyond just returning the area to its natural state.
Of 200 years ago.
Yeah.
It's evolved in its natural state today. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, those are fair questions. And I said my biggest concern, that's why I went to the meeting before I came here, to Put that list of questions, because if you don't answer the right questions, they just get up and walk out.
And George, if you look at the studies on the Springfield Township one, if you look at the renderings of what the end result is supposed to look like, it is completely different. When you have the consultant that's doing it in favor of getting rid of it, the support material looks compelling. Well, this is beautiful. It looks better. It really never turns out that way.
So you're saying none of those drawings are a trickle down?
So, yeah. Anyway.
Okay.
Rose Township, working on our budget still, dealing with Oakland County and the assessing department. They're, wanting to raise our rates significantly, so we're dealing with that. Everyday things.
Can I say that?
No, I'm a supervisor, you can't say.
Yeah, I'm a clerk. So,
Hi, children.
what you want to tell them? We filmed a movie.
Oh, yeah, tell me
Filmed a
about that.
movie
Yeah.
in, Rose Township this week. Friday and Thursday and night and Friday. So, we're in our office, they're.
They had some
filming-
office scenes or something they needed
Yeah,
to
they
do.
needed like a judge and then they did an attorney, so I put one into Steve's office, because it looks like a judge's office. And then another one in the conference room, because they had all kinds of old books in there, so that was the attorney scene.
Is this?
Did you guys get to start?
Or something?
It's a drum horse one, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they were very nice, they were film crew, and they called me a couple months ago, and they said, can we come in there and use some of your rooms? And I said, yeah, sure. So, they were nice people.
Debbie Miller, nominated for an Academy.
No, I wasn't part of it, I just opened up the office and told them where to
Are you gonna be in the credits associate producer?
go. No,
Okay,
not at all.
and I'll turn to the citizen at large.
So Solars has nothing to report.
Shame on you. You should publicly thank Greens from Dearborn, for the baklava that they sent us tonight.
I did.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you. We gotta go home and eat stuff so I can eat this.
That was an opportunity right there.
Yes.
Okay,
There is baklava back there for anybody that wants some.
Really?
Anything left over is going in the break room with Matt's permission.
and what's it called again? Do you want
Greenland Markets.
Greenland?
Yes, they're in Dearborn, Dearborn Heights, Canton, and then, one in Detroit. And I'm trying to get them to open up, he bought the little strip mall out by Sagebrush, in fact. And I'm hoping to get him to put one of his stores there.
Yeah, they're very nice.
All right, we appreciate it.
Always so good.
That will take us to our last public comment. Randy, you look like you're ready to get up. You just shifted at the wrong time. Okay. Mr. Statler, I mean, Mr. Stern, hold on.
So I got it. Okay, tell them who I am. I'm Julius Stern, on the there is some issues, and maybe the scattergun approach. So we have a great television spokesperson here that's been on how many channels, and he did beyond not embarrassing himself. He did a commendable job at reporting the situation and advocating for changes contrary to DOT's recommendations. Then on that, issue, is there a use for a pair of those synced signal lights? I know that accidents occurred out in the main traffic flow on I-75 there, but is there an issue with the entrance access?
So that's one of the recommendations I made. It's exactly that. With
Those gas powered, yep,
Yeah, they get those, set up when they were doing all the bridge construction a couple years ago. It seemed to control traffic effectively then, so I don't know why I haven't been applying
Just for gossip. So during the storm, you know, with my personality and going to talk to people, I talked to, DTE personnel and talked to, I think, Wright's, tree service. And on 2 instances, I talked to them and the DTE personnel would say, well, we're sorry, but we're waiting for the tree people. Around the corner, I talked to the tree people and they say, I'm sorry, we can't do anything because the DTE people. And they're literally a quarter of a mile from each other. And lastly, so the, both townships, Rose and Holly, on the mill pond issue, you know, I think pretty highly of myself. I think I've got a remedy for that. We just get sheet pilings and drive them in there, and that solves the problem. Is that right? That's the remedy? That would stop any seepage that may or may not be occurring. And I've read about some, places where they've had, oh, I got an extra grind. So, Davisburg, there was a group that, was really advocating for the Mississauga rattlers. So now we have a great Mississauga rattler, area there, but, you know, I think most people would say they'd rather have the mill pond. And, I hope that same organization doesn't play a role in the, getting rid of the dam that's affecting both, you know, many people don't realize the, I don't know the name of the trailer park, but that's Rose Township adjacent, surrounded by Holly Township. So it affects both townships. And there have been instances where they have removed a pond and the, I think what it's called, the water table goes down, and it has secondary effects where the agroscape changes and you begin having the sinking around the area, because actually the water pressure, underground water pressure, helps to support the surrounding soils. So I don't think anyone's investigated that secondary ramification of draining that pond.
That would be your geologist.
Yeah, well, it's part of hydrologist. Hydrology.
Yeah.
All right, anyone else for public comment? Now Randy wants to.
Oh, here we go. Get excited, right?
I'm just gonna complain about plant leadership.
Oh, good.
Randy Finkbeiner, this time I'm East 5051 Range Hall, representing the fire department. As you know, yesterday we had a holiday. We also had traffic. We had an accident on the corner of North Holiday and Belford Road. That happens to be the road that goes into the National Cemetery on Memorial Day. We had what we would consider a minor to medium accident. One transport, not a lot of injuries, but it was 2 major hits on cars blocking the road. Now I'm getting back to the traffic situation. We were trying to make left turns into Belford, north and south there, and they couldn't go west on Belford because that was totally closed off with our cars. There were times where it was reported that we had the southbound traffic all the way up to, into Genesee County, almost to, Baldwin Road. There was times where we had a mile back up coming north from Holly. And I couldn't tell you how far it was going down Belfort, coming out of the cemetery. But we're trying to control that with little to no police help. We did have Holly Village come out and assist us. They were very good. We did have 2 state police come out, but wouldn't you know, they had 2 priority calls right in the middle of our call, and they said, sorry about your luck, boys, but we gotta go. And they left. So here we are trying to do the traffic. What I'm getting at is the traffic doesn't just happen on I-75 or just on the exit ramps. It happens right in our own roads, which was normally a busy corner, hard to turn, but on a holiday when 3/4 of these folks are coming from out of town and they're trying to get to the cemetery to visit their loved ones or folks. And now we've got the traffic. Why can't I go? I can just get around. One guy told me, I want to go straight. And I can see a way I can get through there. I can go around that car and I don't know what the guy's doing sweeping up, but I won't hit him. He actually told me that. I said, I'm sorry about your luck, but you're going that way. Not a happy camper. It worked out. So I just want the board to know that when we go out on these accidents, shutting down roads is the safest thing for us. But then the residual problems that go downstream and upstream and everywhere else becomes another issue. Then we get hotheads, and then we get people that can't wait, and they just have to go to wherever it is they're going. They see a lane, but they don't understand, we've got people walking through there, we've got people trying to get people out of cars, we have wreckers show up. Why is that wrecker in my way? If he wasn't there, I could get it. He's picking up the car to get it out of the road. They don't get it. So,
Not making this up.
this happened yesterday. We were out there, and I was the one left in charge of the traffic, so I'm monitoring this. And we had our engine out there with Mr. Campbell on his end, and we're responding with what I would consider a small group of our people. I think we had 3 of our folks out there, or 4. 4 of our folks. So that was including our 2 on-duty crews. So both of our ambulances were on that scene. Had we had another call at that very moment, we probably could have broke one away for a priority level 1 emergency. But that's what we deal with. So just to back up the chief's story, I won't go 40 minutes, but it's happened. It's happened. So one of the considerations is it goes back to budget, it goes back to manpower, it goes back to staffing. If we staff higher and we have equipment, we can service better. Now, do we do this every day of the week? We do. Do we do it at that level? We don't. But you got to be ready when it comes in.
Sure.
So when that call comes in and you need 20 guys, you need 20 guys and you need 8 pieces of equipment, not 2. So we need to be ready. So in your budget considerations going forward, whatever we do with our townships to get funding, we really need to focus on it. Thank you.
It applies on the Ridge Road, most townships. Exact same thing we're going to be talking about this northbound.
Anyone else for public comment? Just a trickle down comment. I heard the trickle down, I was gonna make him get up.
At the vendor show, I did see a piece of equipment that I've read some white papers about, and I tried to talk previous administration into doing, and that's a blocker truck. So when you see the construction crews out on I-75, the tail vehicle has the big, attenuator. That's the word I was talking for. Thank you.
Say that word again.
Attenuator.
Crush zone.
Yeah, it's crushed zone.
It absorbs the energy.
Yeah, some people call them scorpions, but it flops down the back of the truck and sits out 20 feet, and the car hits it, absorbs the impact. That is starting to be, I hate to say, a trend.
Bunker cars.
Yes. But a trend in emergency services is to have a vehicle in your fleet that is the sacrificial lamb to get hit, that's built to be hit. So this is just a short wheelbase, like a dump truck without a dump bed, several thousand pounds, many tons of ballast sitting on it with that scorpion on the back. And you park that in the middle of the road, block traffic, and if they get that, that's what they hit, rather than $1 million fire truck, which you've had our folks hit.
And it may save the life of the driver because it's absorbing the energy gradually.
One of the concepts is, as you take a truck out of service, you pull the pump or leave the pump, take the tank out, fill the tank with sand, and then you put a stinger on the back of that, or a scorpion on the back of that fire truck. Or if you have a DPW with a dump truck going on the service, same concept, use that, because it's, at the end of its life, you just need to keep it running good enough, right? It's not like you're transporting a patient in it, but
Sacrificial lamb.
it is a sacrificial lamb. So,
All right.
done, sir. Done, so.
Anybody with final comments?
Right down 48 minutes now.
Yeah. All right. Don't you think about a minute?
I'll keep going. Once you get in the limelight, you just gotta stay there. Sounds like. I'm just saying.
One quick question. Mike Mueller and one of these, that's our state rep and our state senator. Is that the same for Rose Township?
Yes, Mueller.
Mueller and these?
I know about them.
Who's the state senator for you guys?
What's his name?
Runstead?
Runstead.
Runstead.
Mueller Runstead. That's it.
Right with Runstead.
Yep.
We got Red.
I have on occasions included them in some of these communications.
Okay. And I have some thoughts I'll give with you. Oh, is there anything else to come here, Mike?
So
I'm gonna close it at 7:51, could have been 7:03, but hey.